Hello everyone and welcome to Blank First Page. My name is Lucas. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I saved this notebook from water damage. So a couple of weeks ago I took my dog out for a walk, and as soon as we got to the dog park we got hit with a downpour of rain, and to give you an idea, within about 30 seconds I was soaked to my skin through the clothes. And in the back of my jeans pocket, as always, was my field notes. So the field notes got soaked as well. It's not the first time it's happened. A couple of years ago, when I was living in New Zealand, I was on a walk with my wife and my dog, and we were out in rural New Zealand somewhere on this 3-hour walk, and it rained every single minute of that 3-hour walk. And in the back pocket, again, I had my field notes. At the time it was this cryptography one, which from their quarterly editions. Can't remember when this one came out. But in any case, it got fully soaked, as you can see. So what I did when we got back to the Airbnb, luckily they had this wood-burning stove, and I just placed the field notes on top of the grates and separated the pages out a bit and allowed the hot air from the top of the stove to kind of dry out the pages, hoping that it would kind of find its way in between the pages and dry it out. Probably a terrible fire hazard, but it was a great way of drying it out. It worked really well. The reason I know that's what I did is because I wrote it down. This is one of those nice ways you can commemorate certain things using notebooks. I don't normally use field notes as like a daily journal or anything like that, but I will make notes like this to record some memories of specific events or days. Like the soaking of a field note is an event worthy of commemorating. So anyway, thankfully with this one I was only about halfway through, so I got to enjoy the rest of it in its crispy, crunchy state. Once paper kind of gets wet and then dries out, it gets this new level of texture. I guess the fibers somehow change, the structure of the paper is, but it gets this real amazing texture. And like I say, thankfully I was only about halfway through, so for the remaining 2 or 3 weeks that I probably used this field notes, I got to enjoy this extra dimension. Because of the black cover, it left these cool watermarks, which just made this field notes unique. For example, you can see the same kind of pattern where I don't know if it's the black from the cover kind of seeping in through the pages, but it made these really nice watermarks on each page. And one of the interesting things is the fact that because I had written in half of it already in pencil, nothing happened to the markings on the page. And it reminded me of some book I had read when I was still a young boy, probably like between 8 or 10. And you know, when you have these books for young boys about going out into the woods and having a pocket knife and all of these sort of things, all things I loved. But one of the tips they had was when you do go out as an 8-year-old boy alone into the woods, to take a pencil with you, because if you write in pencil on paper and then you get caught in the rain, the pencil marks will remain. So if you take a diary, I think was the reference in this book, you know, the notes and the records you make of your trip to the woods, those notes are safe. I got to prove that that is correct, and literally nothing happened to any of the pencil marks that I had made in this notebook. With this one, unfortunately, I had already used it all up. In fact, I was on the very last page, so I didn't get any additional enjoyment other than the fact that this is the most recent field notes I've used, so it is top of the pile on my stack of used field notes. So I do get to kind of play around with it and crinkle it and crisp it and crunch it, as I like to do. I inadvertently tested a few more inks which survived this pretty heavy deluge. And this was a good stress test because the notebook was completely full. There was plenty of opportunity for any of the inks that I used in here to run. So this notebook I took with me on my trip to New York. I made a video about that, but I had my Kaweco Lilliput Mini in there, and it just has the Kaweco refill. This says it's a Kaweco Soul 1.0. You can get them in different endpoints, but This is just a black one. So the notebook is full of that, and none of that ink ran. That's from here. And the other pen I used was the Parker 25 with platinum carbon black ink in the refill. And this ink is archival ink, so it's literally designed to kind of hold up to water damage and things like that. It's meant to be very permanent. So further proof in this notebook here that that ink does hold up to water. So when I got back from the walk with my dog, I took the notebook straight away. I was able to film it and I attempted to save it. This is how I did it. So I started by trying to peel apart the pages, and because I have no nails, no fingernails, I had to use this offset spatula from my kitchen. And I ripped out these front pages from a Yellow Pages book that we have. And the idea came to me because my wife does pottery and she will use this kind of paper to place underneath wet clay because it kind of absorbs the water from it. So I just used the Yellow Pages paper and placed it in between each sheet of the Field Notes notebook. Luckily, as you can see, because we weren't caught out in the rain for that long, so the pages hadn't soaked completely through, so there was still this dry patch in the middle, which meant that once I got the page opening started, it then moved quite easily. I was being quite careful and kind of gingerly taking the pages apart just to make sure that I didn't start any tears or any rips, which would have then meant I probably wouldn't have been able to get the pages apart. But by taking it slow and being patient, I was able to get each page apart without any rips. And I just put a sheet in between each of the pages and then stuck the whole thing in the Yellow Pages book and left it there. So the notebook then stayed kind of clamped in the Yellow Pages for about a day. After a day, I took it out of the book, but I left all the individual sheets in there, and I left the notebook for about another day or two maybe, by which point it was completely dry. So if you ever happen to have any notebooks that get water damaged, I highly recommend using the paper between paper method. One thing you could potentially use if you don't have Yellow Pages are newspapers, but I feel like the newspaper print might transfer quite easily over to the notebook paper when it's wet, which could actually create quite a cool effect. But if you are not willing to risk that, maybe avoid the newspaper and use something a bit more glossy like what the Yellow Pages paper is. This, in fact, might be the only practical use for Yellow Pages anymore. One last cool thing that has come out of this exercise is that I think I have discovered a way to really nicely pre-age my field notes. This might be a future video idea, but I'm thinking in one of my next field notes that I use, I will soak it before I even start it and then go through this process of drying it out again so that I have a fully crispy and crunchy field notes to use for the entirety of the duration of the field notes. So that might be a cool hack to try out. If you try it out before me, please let me know. Anyway, I hope this video was useful to you if you've landed here trying to look for ways to save a water damaged notebook. And if you haven't faced that particular notebook drama yet, now you know what to do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.